Hello everybody, dear students. In today's session we are going to discuss about the new manufacturing method that is known as extrusion process. So this is the outline of the today's session: introduction, classification of extrusion processes. Under classification, the first process is hot extrusion process, and in hot extrusion process there are two processes, forward and backward, and in last we will discuss about the difference between direct and indirect extrusion process. So let us come to the process. What is extrusion process? Extrusion process, this is a metal forming process in which the block of metal that is known as billet, that is the raw material, is used, and this raw material as a billet is placed inside the container or cylinder which is having the die of required shape. Then the material is passed through this die with the help of very high pressure, with the help of hydraulic ram, to get it into the required section of the component, and the extruded part will be our final component. This is known as extrusion process, and this process can also be understood by taking a very simple example. The operation is similar to the squeezing of the toothpaste through the circular die, and the paste comes out in the shape of the die. So this is this was a very simple example that shows the similar operation of the extrusion process. And these are the various definitions of the extrusion processes. Extrusion is the process by which a block of metal, that is billet, is reduced in cross section by forcing it to flow through a die orifice under high pressure. These are the other definitions, and these are the various sections. Those can be manufactured by extrusion processes. The components or parts, those have required such type of cross sections can be easily manufactured by extrusion process. These are the various sections. Now the first process, that is known as hot extrusion process, and under hot extrusion the first method is forward or direct extrusion process. So this is the setup of the forward or direct extrusion process. So first of all, what do you mean by hot extrusion? Hot extrusion means before starting the process, the metal billet, that is the raw material, that is placed inside the cylinder or container. This metal billet is heated up to or above the recrystallization temperature. That is known as hot extrusion process. In the hot extrusion process, the metal billet is heated up to or above the recrystallization temperature of the material. So in this process, there is a cylinder or container in which the metal billet will be placed, and at the one end of this cylinder or container there is a die. So this is the die of the required shape, and this required shape may be of circular, maybe of triangular, maybe of rectangular. And at the other end, this is the other end, and the other end the ram or plunger is attached, and this is operated by automatically. This is a hydraulic ram, and this is the extruded part. So how the process works? So first of all, the metal billet is placed inside the cylinder or container. Then according to the hot extrusion, it is heated up to the recrystallization temperature. Then the plunger moves with the high pressure, and the large forces are applied on the metal blade, then the metal blade starts to flow through this open die like this, and this is the extruded part that takes the shape of this die. So this is our final part, final component, and there is a handling system that control this extruded part. And what is the meaning of forward or direct extrusion? In this process, the flow of material takes place in the direction of the pressure applied. So in this process, the material flows in the same direction in which the ram or plunger moves. So this is known as forward or direct extrusion process. This is the description that we have discussed with the help of this sketch. This is the description. These are the advantages of the hot extrusion processes. A very this is the very rapid process. Involves low tool cost. It is an ideal process for producing parts of uniform cross section in large quantities. Due to use of high pressure and compressive in nature, a very dense structure of metal is obtained. So these were the advantages of hot extrusion process. Then the next process is backward or indirect extrusion process. So how the process works? Backward, this is under hot extrusion process. This is the backward or indirect extrusion process. So the difference is that in the direct extrusion process, the material flows in the same direction in which the plunger or hydraulic ram moves. But in the backward extrusion process, the material flows in the opposite direction. This is the flow of material that flows in this direction, but the forces are applied in this direction. This is the plunger or ram moves in this direction, but material flows in the opposite direction. So this is the point that shows the difference between the backward and the forward extrusion process. So the components are same. This is the cylinder or container, and at the one end there is a die of the required shape, and at the other end this is closed with the help of a plate, and this is the hydraulic ram attached with the die, and this is the metal blade filled inside the cylinder or container. Then when the forces are applied to the ram and ram moves in this direction, then the metal blade start to flow in the reverse direction, and this is the extruded part, that is our final component that takes the shape of the die. So this is known as backward or indirect extrusion process. This is the description that we have discussed with the help of diagram. And now differences between forward and backward extrusion. Point number 1, the blade moves and makes interface between blade and the container by the ram, but in the backward extrusion the metal blade remains stationary and the die moves. Yes, and the second point is the flow of extruded metal takes place in the direction of applied force by the ram, and the flow of extruded metal takes place in the opposite direction of the applied force by the ram. So these are the differences. Thank you very much. In the next session I will continue the classification part of the extrusion processes.